Welcome back to the One Question Leadership Podcast. I'm Glenn Caruso, head football coach at the University of St. Thomas, and so happy you tuned in. You know, quite often we get so caught up in the daily grind of work or coaching or recruiting that we don't often take time to reflect. I would encourage everybody to take just a few minutes each day to try and see the bigger picture, to stop and realize that in the end, we're going to be judged on what we choose to believe, who we choose to love, and what we decide to leave behind in the hearts and minds of not just our players, not just our coworkers, but also our children. And remember, if we're doing it right, we're coaching football for life.
Greetings, this is Ty Brown, and welcome to the One Question Leadership Podcast, where we highlight executive and organizational leadership. Be sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at 1Q Leadership. Also, be sure to like, subscribe, and review 1Q wherever you listen to podcasts. Our guest today is Coach Tim Lester. Coach Lester is the head football coach at Western Michigan University. Greetings, Coach. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for having me. This is exciting.
It is. I'm glad I'm here in your facility, Western Michigan. I had a good conversation with Kathy Beauregard, the athletics director, so I'm glad I'm able to talk to you now, too.
Yeah, she is a kind of a legend, you know, in the being an AD.
For so long at one institution, right?
Yeah, I mean, she was the AD here when I was a player. And
wow.
She's still here, and she's seen it all, and things have changed as everyone knows, and she's made it through it all and kind of guided this program through it all. And it's been amazing to be able to work with her.
So I come here today, and today happens to be the day that your freshman report, right?
Yes.
Which is exciting on a number of different accounts, right? You get to you see with your hands and eyes on the guy, see how he interact with everybody. I mean, there's a number of different things that you actually can see just on day one from freshman reporting.
Yeah, it's even leading up to this day, you know, the amount of paperwork to send a young man to college in and of itself is amazing. And so they've been checking things off and getting their IDs and getting checked into the dorms this morning. We will kind of flip the script here in about an hour and finally meet with them. And this will be football and concussion management, baseline they call it, and then EKGs, and then physicals, and COVID tests, and they're going to go to their locker room for the first time. We're going to teach them how the clips work for the laundry, you know, and then the professor of the class that they're going to take starting next week will come and give a speech this afternoon. So they're going to have a lot coming at them. And I think that's the hardest thing for young kids is everything's new. You know, there's only a lot of mind space. You only have so much mind space in your head, and here, you know, it's all coming at them. And I think it's really important for us on this day, and really in the first couple of weeks, to just help them feel comfortable. You know, there's a lot of anxiety because they just don't know anything. It's a new building, and tomorrow morning they have the first lift. You know, if they all pass everything with the doctors, and then we'll do a conditioning test. You know, which I'm sure they're all nervous about. You know, and so it's all happening. They've all been waiting a long time for this day, and it's here.
Yeah, that's interesting. Conditioning test. Coach Saban had us run 10 110s and 10 40s. Just back in those days, right?
See, and this is what I try to explain to the guys is like the old conditioning test. And I hate to say back in the day, but I'm to that age now where I say back in the day. Mm-hmm. It was literally, I felt it was like a torture device that they used on us, and now it is truly. It is a very easy conditioning test, but it's more for our training staff. They want to know that they can handle this before they even really get in the weight room. So it's not hard. If they've been running at all, they should pass it. Whereas I felt like I ran all summer and still barely passed
struggled.
it
Yeah,
exactly. They made it hard.
Made it hard.
Like, I mean, this thing is a more, hey, we know that you've been running enough and you're in good enough shape that you can now step into our weight room and be safe, you know? And so it is but it's still, the anxiety is the same. You know, we did it last year for the first time since I've been here because we were coming off a huge COVID break, and our training staff just wanted to make sure that they were in good enough shape to go into the lifting part. In fact, it's so quick and fairly painless that afterwards they go lift. I mean, they go right in and do it, you know, to show us that they're ready to go, and then they go. But if you don't do it, you cannot go and take that next step. So, they were all here. This group was here for an official visit about 21 days ago. So they were all on campus 21 days ago. We told them that we gave them the answers to the test. This is what it's going to be like. This is how you pass it. Make sure you're running. You should all pass it and we'll take the step. But it is fun kind of to rewind back 15 to 20 years and have a conditioning test and just watch them deal with it's one of the many hurdles that they're going to have to overcome to be a successful college athlete. So this is the first one we're going to see here pretty soon.
As the head coach, when the freshmen report, obviously there's all these bullet points and things that they need to take care of. Is there an aspect of watching the dynamic and trying to identify either personalities or leadership or something when they first report, or you got to give more time with them?
Yeah, I would say we need more time. I really think what we do, and I think it's a great idea, our veterans have been here working hard for a while now. So our veterans, today was their last workout day. So our vets are off for the next week. They will come in, they will greet the new guys, but our new guys get a week with our strength coaches without the vets around. I want a week of, and my strength coach wants a week with just the freshmen. Let's make sure you know how to do these lifts correctly. Let's make sure this is safe. We do not want to throw you in with some of these grown men that we have on our football team, and you're not ready for that yet. So it's kind of a weird transition because our vets get to go home for a week and get a week off, 4th of July weekend. And our young kids are just kind of get their feet wet for a week. And we'll learn a lot in the next week when they're just with each other to figure out who the leaders are and who's pushing the group, who's saying positive things to their teammates. So it's going to be, we will know a lot in the next week. And then the vets come, and most of those guys will get quiet because the vets will lead when they come back. But yeah, it's definitely going to be, we're going to know who's been working out and at home and who's been doing, they've all said they're working out, of course, but we'll learn a lot. And then just how they deal with some of the hard things they're going to do, like going in the weight room should not be an easy day. It should be hard. You should be pushing yourself. And we promise these kids we're going to push them to the next level. So we're going to do that. We're not going to do it immediately, but we're going to slowly put expectations in front of them and figure out what kind of person they are. And does that guy respond when you get on his case, or do you have to put your arm around him? Like, we got to figure that out. And the good thing is our strength staff gets a week to figure that out. And I will meet with our leadership council when they get back and kind of give them the scouting report on each guy and what he needs to be successful. And, I had a meeting this morning with the entire team, first one in 15 months, that we could have enough people in a room, which was a kind of an exciting morning for me and for the team, I hope. And so we talked about, we got to put our arms around these guys. And there was a spectrum of hazing versus the opposite. We're on the opposite end of, hey, everyone remembers how hard that first year is. I do. I'm sure you do. And what can we do to help these kids get through year one? Because year two is so much easier. Everything that's going on. The building. You know what it's like to live on your own. Exactly. College classes.
Habits develop.
You know what Packer drill is. You know what to expect. You just relax and you grow and you start playing. And so our job is to make these guys feel comfortable as fast as humanly possible. So they'll have success and hopefully have a great career. But the beginning of it matters so much. It gives you a huge, it's nothing wrong with having a huge lead after the first quarter, And so we really talk about it with our team. And so when the vets get back a week from today, it'll be good for them to start getting around these guys. And each freshman has a mentor. They have exchanged cell phone numbers, and they've been calling them all week. And even though my vets are going to be on vacation the next week, they'll be calling back to the young guys like, how's it going? How's it doing? And so we have a plan and it works. And I'm looking forward to these guys getting to work.
Yeah, I wonder about, you mentioned there that the strength coach is going to be with them for a week. Just the freshmen, strength coaches are with guys a lot more than coaches.
Way more. And
so I wonder about how much you lean on them for their gauge of players, leadership, personality, dynamic, everything, right?
Everything. I think, there's a lot of things that are said in coaching, like, recruiting is the lifeblood of our program. I don't believe that. I think it's very important. I think it's probably number 2, and number 1 is the growth. Like, can you grow people? Can you get them bigger, stronger, better leaders, better students? Like, if recruiting is such an inexact science that you can feel really good about having a great football team if your growth process within your program is better than others. You'd be like, hey, 4 years from now, I know this guy's going to be better than that guy because we think they're really even right now, but we have to really focus on on the growth, and the other thing they say is your most important hire is your strength coach.
Right.
And I totally agree 100% with that one. Because I think that guy he's everything, and him coming up and kind of reporting to me every single day on who's doing well, who's not doing well. One thing that Coach Fleck did here that I thought was genius is there's always a liaison between the academic side. Someone on the football staff is the person that can be in constant contact with the academic people, the support team over there, and it's in another building. It's Reed Fieldhouse. He had his strength coach be that head person who's with the kids every day. Hey, you got a test today. Hey, I thought that was really smart, and so we've kept that. I came in, I was like, ooh, you're always learning, right? And it's like, wow, why? Normally it's just like, I don't know, the linebacker coach is the liaison, So he's the one that gets the daily reports on if there's any issues in the study table or things coming up. And having your strength coach be that guy was a great idea. And we've done it. And I think it's really great because not only is he's talking to them about what they have going on in their lives, and he's with them every single day. I get 20 hours a week in the fall with him, but he's a big part of that. And in the off season, he gets 8 hours a week and I get an hour maybe,
Right, yeah.
So, I get him for 4 months. We're with him about even, but for the other 8 months, he dominates, the time with those guys. So it's so important that they trust him, they believe in him, and he is a huge ally for me to know what's going on, the pulse of the team, and it is a very important hire.
Yeah, which is important. So you're coming into the camp, the veterans are off for a week, freshmen here, and everybody will come back together. And this is the first time. You mentioned the first time in 15 months, a whole team meeting, staff, and everybody together. Talk about that. I mean, this is, you know what I mean? Because of Mac, like last year, Mac was the first to cancel, but then came back and I think you guys played 6 games or something like that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, now we're...
And then we were meeting virtually, and I started, probably the greatest feeling I've had in the last 6 months was last January. In order to meet with the team, I had to meet with them in groups of 3. I had to give the same speech 3 times in a row, but at least it was live. You know what I mean? It wasn't on a screen. So I would go meet with
30 times. There's like 110 players, right?
Yeah. So it'd be like, I think it was 30 some in the room. That's all that room could fit at the time. So that's same with our weight room. So when they would go to lift, I would go down there, I'd give the speech, and then 2 hours later, I'd go down there and give the speech to the next room. And then I got really good at it by the end. And I give another speech, and it was just so great to see the back and forth and their body language and everything. And so today, it was the first time. I mean, the freshmen weren't there this morning. It was just the vets, but we're all in the same room, and it felt great. It wasn't as impactful when it comes to like the leadership and the coaching culture and getting them to understand what we're about. So we're all on the same page is so important. There was literally 15 months of things to talk about. So, I mean, there was so much content in this meeting. It wasn't a lot of like the leadership and the culture, which is normally what the meeting is focused on. It was about name, image, likeness, because that's coming. It was about what's happening next week. It was, there's so many things like that we haven't had a chance to talk about. So it was like 15 slides on the PowerPoint, and not a ton of them were about culture and leadership and vision, and which is what the next 100 that we have will be about, So, but it was just great to be in a room with them, and then to set a tone. We normally meet every morning. I set the tone of what the goals are for the day. I was the number one thing in our post-season interviews that I do with the players. The number one thing, not even close, that's the one thing they missed about just the team meetings, And I got to tell you, you always have plans. You got to keep your knees bent. You got to be flexible. And my plan when everything changed during COVID was to have some of those meetings at the end of practice on the field. That was really the only time that I was going to have a chance to. And I, after the very first practice, I started going in on some of the culture stuff that I want to talk about, and they were exhausted. And I realized this is not the right time to do, So I tried to hit some things on Zoom best you could. But it really was a missing link for, I think, every team in the country. And to be back to that again, I'm so excited for training camp to start, where I get to have daily meetings and hit different things and teach them what we're about, and the vets know, but the young kids, they didn't get anything last year, the freshmen. And so then the new freshmen that are here. So we have 2 classes that I think are a little bit behind.
Yeah, that's what's
But
crazy,
we have
right?
super seniors, so we have a ton of vets too, you know?
Yeah,
So
yeah. That's
it's
super interesting.
definitely an interesting thing, and it's really cool, and we're just excited to get back to it.
Yeah, yeah. So you were recently appointed to the American Football Coaches Association Board of Trustees, right?
Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Which is an honor to serve the profession in that way. And based on my experience, what I've seen under Coach Taft and of course under Coach Berry is these trustees, like you are in a position probably for the next 10 to 12 years or however long the rotation is to have an influence on legislation and the game of college football, which indirectly affects college athletics overall. So the interesting thing is that you're coming on and there's NIL, and there's this Austin case, the
transfer portal.
Yeah, transfer portal, the ADs are leaving and new ADs come. Everything is in flux and everybody's trying to figure something out. And college football playoff, everything is
changing, right?
Evolution, right? So
I always say, wait 5 minutes, it'll change again.
Yeah, exactly.
You know? And so, yeah, it's an honor. I mean, a lot of the guys that are on the board of trustees are people I know and respect, and some really smart people on this board, and we're going to need them, you know, to navigate the rules and to legislate the game so it can continue to grow. It's changing, which I think change is good. I think change can be great, you know. But it also has to be legislated where everyone knows how we're doing this thing, what players can and can't do, whether it's, you know, name, image, likeness, or transfer portal, or any of these things, or college football playoffs. So I'm really looking forward to getting my first meeting, you know, which I think is going to be pretty soon, and having a chance to talk to these coaches and figure out where we fit in and get the information and have a conversation about, we want to preserve the game and make it great and improve it. But it's definitely an interesting time. And I said that to Todd Berry when he called and asked me to be on it and said I got voted on, and I said, well, there's definitely going to be some things that we need to discuss.
Yeah,
you
right.
know?
We got to talk about a few things
here. It's I think everyone's excited about it. I look at it as an opportunity, you know, and you know, talking to my players this morning about NIL a little bit. It's going to be great. It's just, we got to get to that greatness.
Yeah, figure out how is that defined, right?
Yeah, it's not going to be it's not a paved road. I promise you that. It is definitely going to be bumpy, and we're going to have to figure out the best way to do it. But man, it'll be, I think you got a lot of, you know, really smart people in a room that hopefully can come up with some ideas. And then I know there's a lot of committees that have to pass everything, but hopefully come up with something that makes the game continue to grow.
Yeah, I'll ask you a couple questions here and then we'll wrap. The first one is like the dynamics of leadership, right? I mean, you bring in a new set of freshmen, and they have to buy into they have to understand what the culture is and buy into what the culture is. You bring in a transfer player, and it's like, well, you got to fit. If you don't fit, you know what I mean? Everybody will know immediately, right?
Yeah,
that even works with coaching staff. You bring in an assistant coach, and the guys are looking at him like, hey, coach, I don't know if this is the guy or not. I wonder about that, especially with coaching staffs, the leadership aspect, the dynamics of chemistry amongst the staff, but then also this coach has his own room in football, if it's another sport, but his own room in football, and the players probably can tell right off the back if this guy doesn't fit. Like, will they come to you, or you can just tell by the dynamic of the player? Like, tell me how that works.
Yeah, I think it comes in many ways. I think if you have some players that you have it's all about relationships, right? So if you have a great relationship with your players, they'll come and talk to you, you know, especially in a one-on-one scenario. But a lot of times you can see it, you know, we spend so much time. I have spent so much time on vetting recruits, making sure that my recruiters are recruiting the correct way. You know, like I talk a ton about our culture during recruiting, because people that are interested in the things that I'm talking about are going to be attracted to it. So I should know I can't be saying whatever I need to say to get the kid to come, and then be shocked that he doesn't fit in to the culture because I never even told him about it and what we focus on and what it's like to be in this building. And when it comes to finding coaches, it's really important that I have changed every single time I've hired new coaches. I've changed the way I've done it because I'm continually trying to get better. Not every hire has been out of the park hire, I've gotten better at it every single time, and I've asked better questions every single time, and I've enlisted some leadership companies to help me with questions to get the answers out to make sure that these men that are going to be leading our players fit the mold of that I want. You know what I mean? And so I kind of had to explain to the companies, this is what I'm looking for, and this is what I think will be successful. And I got some really weird questions on my interviews.
Yeah, what kind of questions are on that?
My favorite question of all of them is, you want to know what a coach vision in his head, who he wants to be. And I always say, and I read this, I got like 100 options for questions from this one company. And so I asked the question, what famous NFL coach or big time college coach best represents you as your coaching style and what you believe in, what you stand for, which coach? Because you'll learn a lot about a guy when he says Nick Saban or Mike Tomlin, or, who do they think they are, in their own head. You learn a ton by that question. And I always stump them because I was like, ooh. And I was like, well, I'm a Dabo Swinney guy. I really respect the way he does things. And it doesn't mean I know him. It just means what he represents and what he does and how he goes through his things is the way I feel that I'm hoping I'm representing myself that way. If someone said Bobby Knight, I'd be like, oh, okay. And then
expound on that a little.
Can you tell me more about that?
Yeah.
And so I think that's one of the oddball questions we ask to figure out how they see themselves in a role, because they don't know these people. Herm Edwards is one I get a lot. So it's interesting as I ask those questions. I don't let them say their high school coach. I want it to be somebody that's well known and kind of has a reputation for one thing or the other. It kind of tells me what they're attracted to, and so yeah. But that's an ongoing process. I'm always trying to find it.
Did you bring that company on to help with those questions when you first got here, or was it after a couple hires and you realized I need some assistance in vetting these guys? Right?
It was a company that we worked with. It's the company's name is Deviate. They worked with Clemson. They worked with us, and they're really like a culture development group. And so the owner went to school here, and they used to live in Nashville. Now they live up in Traverse City. I'm going up to his house with his family this weekend. I'm bringing my family up there, and so he was helping us build the culture. We went through a culture exercise on building our core values. Same exact exercise that they did at Clemson of what do we want to stand for? Because the players came up with our core values. I didn't. So I knew they did this anyway. And so I had been in conversation with him about how to ensure, that we end up with the guys we want. And he helped me come up with a culture book. Like if something matters to you, you spend time on it, right? So we have a book in the building. It's right over there. I can show it to you. So if you're a parent and you come in and you want to know what we're about, here it is. It's a coffee table book, and it tells you about our core values and what we stand for and how we came up with it. And you spend time on the things that matter, right? And so he helped me develop that. And then I kind of went back to the well a little bit,
right, yeah,
okay.
On,
how do I make sure the coaches that I'm hiring fit the core values of the program? And so they kind of helped navigate me through that. And so it's been good.
I'll ask the last question and then we'll wrap. You are a Bachelor of Science in Math, right?
Bachelor of Arts.
Bachelor of
Math.
Arts.
I'm a math major. I majored in math.
Math major. We're 20 years out of college. Tell me how math major is approached. Tell me your approach to, I guess you were a quarterbacks guy and now you're the head coach, your math major brain approach to football. Tell me about that.
It's analytics,
yeah.
Right. And you believe in it and you trust it, and getting your guys to understand why you do what you do. I think my analytical brain, it helps on game days and we have the books and we know when to go for it. And it might be sometime out of the norm, but it's mathematically proven that this gives us a better chance to win, not just to tie and go to overtime. Like we want to win it. But I think where it helps us the most is in the weight room. I mean, there is so much science behind growing men now. from bar speed to GPS units to knowing how your legs feel to listening to the science of what your body and how to get you mathematically in shape where a lot of people everyone's starting to have GPS units. We've had them for a long time. Once I heard about them, I fell in love with them and said, I can't wait to become head coach and we're going to get these things and we're going to train guys this way. And all you have to do is look at what they do in the NFL, the NBA, and the Premier Soccer League to train their athletes and do it, right? They're the best of the best, right? And so it's one of those things that I think down there, it makes a huge difference and our guys believe in it and they're seeing results and they're seeing themselves get faster. D. Eskridge came when we got here, he was a 4.48, then he was a 4.42 and then a 4.38. And then at the pro day ran 4.39. And we did a couple things that they do in the NFL that we brought into here and he saw himself get faster. We have some guys that are darn right slow that got faster.
Right.
You see everyone moving. You know what I mean? We ran 40s yesterday and we had the fastest times we've ever had. Everybody. And it was, I was kind of go back to like, a lot of these kids didn't watch Rocky, but it's like, you remember when watching Ivan Drago work out and he's got computers and like the science behind developing your body, the human body. There's so much science out there that if you listen to it, you can gain an edge. If we give you the data and the resources, we can develop you faster. And our guys are seeing it and they're so addicted to everything that Coach G2, our strength coach, has going on down there. They can't get enough of it, and they're seeing results in numbers.
I mean, it's measurable, right?
It's all measurable.
Right. Especially for an athlete, right?
Yep.
It's not just me lifting more weight. Like I'm measuring everything and seeing how I can improve all that
ankle flexibility, like range of motion, functional movement screening, which is FMS testing, which I did at the NFL Combine as a player and never did it before that. I wish I would have. I wish I would have known more about my functional strengths and weaknesses because I could have fixed them and maybe would have ran a faster 40 because I didn't run I beat Brady, but not by much. He might have been the slowest. I was probably the second slowest at that combine in 2000. But it's amazing to watch. That's, I think, analytically where our guys, trying to get our guys our first year here, you can wear the GPS units on game day, but you can't live track. Now, during practice, we live track you. So if your legs are getting tired, we're going to know it. We're not going to get you to fatigue because you're going to get hurt if you're fatigued, if your legs are tired. So we can't do that on game day, but that is critical data for us to get you ready for game day. Because if I know how many high intensity yards you run as a player in a game, I can train you better to know what I'm getting you ready for. So I remember my first year here, getting guys to wear it on game day, they had all their rituals and I got to wear this shirt, coach. I can't wear that shirt that has the little slip for the GPS unit. And ever since our first year, ever since they've all bought into it, every single guy wears them on game, every single one, because that data, what G2 and this program can do with that data as far as getting you ready for the next season, will be a huge difference maker, And so, we always say, back when we played, when the first guy threw up, the strength coach would be like, now we're working,
Yeah, right.
It's like, does someone really have to puke for us to know we're working? Isn't there better technology out there to know if we're in shape or when we're not and help us get in shape faster so that we're not overdoing it? Cause that can set you back, And so to have our strength coach on practice days out there with an iPad, live tracking how our guys' legs are doing, and if we have any spikes or if anyone's for some reason not doing good, pulling them out before it gets too late and they do something. I think that's probably, it helps everywhere. And if you're analytical, you're always analytical. So I'm analytical with everything. But game day analytics definitely help. But the analytics of growing the human being physically, speed-wise, is easily measurable. It fits right into it. And once your guys buy into it, man, watching them take off, they can't get enough. They're almost like, all right, coach, can we go lift now? We just want to get back in there. And then watching our guys, we had 2 guys drafted this year. Due to COVID, I think we would have had a couple drafted 2 years ago, but there's no pro day, but all 3 got free agents. They all made the team. So our guys, I think we're giving them a really good shot at, it's like giving them the answers to the test 4 years before and saying, this is what they're going to look at. So if you want to make them smile 4 years from now, get really good at these things, And it's amazing how, because we're trying to win games and we're judged 12 to 14 Saturdays in the fall. But, that's a dream. And you promise you're going to give them every opportunity to accomplish that dream. And if you're not doing it, I don't think you're giving them the best chance, and the stats keep bearing that out with, draft picks and guys on teams. And we've done a really good job of developing.
Excellent that you are using what you learn, but the way your brain functions in what you're doing.
And you have to have the right strength coach that's into it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
there are some that don't buy in.
He's just like me. I mean, he's analytical in the bar speed, and bar speed stuff really came from like the Olympic lifting. They were starting to track bar speed. It's more about powerful than being strong. Are you powerful? And so like every time they do a lift, like there's an iPad on the rack that either goes red or green, meaning that counted or it didn't, and are you powerfully moving? I know more and more people are going to getting into this, and we just continue to grab more things that we can be looking at while people are just starting to get into some of the things that we're doing. And I know someone in our league they got the GPS units, but I don't know if they know what they're looking at. I mean, that thing will spit out as much data as you want. The accelerometer in it will tell you anything, and knowing how to read it and what the numbers mean. We're going in year 5 of it, and we keep tinkering with it too, but we have a couple hard, steady, fast, like we know that these ones are huge for us. I mean, I've canceled the day of practice off of the numbers.
Oh, wow.
We're dead. Our legs are dead.
Yeah,
We're going to do a walkthrough tomorrow. We're going to run these same plays we had scripted, but it's all walk. And they came back the next day feeling great, but we still got the mental reps in, and so we had one less practice. But someone was going to get hurt. I mean, our fatigue numbers were through the roof after his middle of camp last year. So I think it's an edge that gives that I analytically, I love it. And my strength coach and my trainer, they're all on the same page. And I think the kids have responded, and it really helps.
Well, that's an excellent thing, Tim. This has been an excellent conversation. I really appreciate you taking the time. I know I'm probably holding you back from going to talk to the freshmen here.
They started the speech without me. They got it started. I'm going to hop in. I'm going to be instead of being the opener, I'm going to be the closer, which is great. Right. Remember, stay flexible. Keep your knees bent.
Yeah,
We're always ready to make it work.
Exactly. Well, I appreciate you joining me on the One Question Leadership Podcast.
I appreciate you having me. Thanks, Ty.
That was Coach Tim Lester. He's the head football coach at Western Michigan University. And of course, I am Ty Brown with One Question. And keep in mind, the role of a leader is to create and maintain an environment that people want to be a part of. And as always, be better tomorrow than you are today. This episode of the One Question Leadership Podcast is produced by Spades Media Group, solving problems using creative leadership.